everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today for our Tech Talk, we are going to have Ellen Knoll teaching us. She works in adult services and she helps teach computer classes at the library. This is part of a weekly series that we're doing at least through the end of this year. Every Friday at noon, you can find us for a different Tech Talk on a different topic. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Ellen. And thanks for coming. Also, if you have questions, there's a chat at the bottom of the screen. Just feel free to send those along and I'll cut in and ask Ellen as we are able to, if you guys have questions.
Okay. Hello, folks. So I'm Ellen Knoll, like Caitlin was saying. I am going to be talking about cloud computing with Google Drive. I am doing this, I would say, one, because Caitlin asked me, and two, because I really genuinely love the Google Apps suite. They are pretty fantastic. One might even say they're sweet. So let's get started. It's just a quick agenda of some things we're going to be going through. We're going to be talking a bit about signing up and what the Google Drive actually is and why one would use it. And then for the rest of these, we're going through docs and sheets and slides and forms. We're actually going to be going and actually exploring them because I find it's much easier to explain how to use them by actually diving in. So, why would someone use Google Apps? One of the best cases for it is that Google Apps are free. So if you might want to type something up. Who doesn't want to type something up and make a lovely resume? But if you need to actually go out and buy the Microsoft Office products, it is quite a hefty investment up front to get access to Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all of those things. But if you use Google Apps, you're able to get similar versions of those products that are entirely free. They also save your work online as you go. It is incredibly comforting to know that something that you're working on is being saved consistently and it's being saved online. So I can actually use this presentation itself as an example of why that's so fantastic, because I've worked on this presentation at the library, and whenever I would use this presentation at other places, I was able to just easily sign into my Google account and pull it up. When we started working from home, I didn't have to worry about files that I had left on my work computer because most of my files are now stored in the cloud, which we'll be getting into, or Google Drive or some other sort of online storage system so that I can access them anywhere. It's also a really great way to share your work and collaborate. It's really easy to share a Google Doc with someone. I use this for resumes a lot, honestly. I pretty consistently, if I'm working on a resume or something that I am going to be presenting to someone, it's really easy to share that with people you trust and have them come in and edit your work and collaborate with you. So it's very handy for that. And like I was saying, it's great for working on the same project on different devices. But why is Google Apps not, in fact, the amazing dream product that we all want it to be? So you do have to have an internet connection or have the app downloaded to one of your devices in order to actually use it. So if I didn't have Google Docs downloaded to my phone, I would only be able to use it if I was connected to the internet. This is not the same for Word. Microsoft Word, a product like that, you can use without being connected to the internet. But I will say for that, you do have to have the software downloaded. So it's not that different there. What is different though, is that there's limited functionality compared to paid products. This is something that I know Caitlin knows exactly what example I'm going to bring up here, because while I am using Google Slides to present this particular presentation, I am a diehard fan of PowerPoint because I maintain that it is the most powerful of image editing software. I assume Caitlin is muted right now and can't jump in to say anything about Photoshop, so I will just keep pushing my agenda. PowerPoint is the most powerful image editing software, but you have to pay for it. So you can't use some of those extra things that you can use in the paid products. You lose a lot from that. Also, so PowerPoint's a good example there. Excel, I know, has considerably more bells and whistles than Google Sheets, which is the equivalent. But I, to be honest, don't know enough about Excel to know how to do that. And also, so Google Forms is another really popular Google app, and it would be comparable to SurveyMonkey, something like that, and you get a lot more control with the paid products. There's also the fact that the free storage in Google Drive is not unlimited, so you can't actually store things in there indefinitely. And it is not where you want to store state secrets. So I phrase it like this because I don't want to scare people. Caitlin has a lot of great classes about keeping your whatever you're storing online safe, about online privacy, and they would be wonderful resources for looking into this. I will say it's most commonly what people find is that breaches into these products are more from user error, using passwords that are too easy to get through, leaving things unlocked on public devices, signing in on public devices and not signing out, not locking your phone and people being able to get in that way. So you do want to be very careful about this, and you don't want to have a document in your Google Drive that is a list of your family's social security numbers. That's just not a good place to put that. The other thing, and this is something that Caitlin and I see a lot working at the library, if you lose access to your account, then you just lose those documents. So this is something where you're going to want to have backups. It's also important to have backups to your backups. So if there's a very important document that you are working on that is being stored on Google Drive, it is fantastic that you are storing it there. It is also a good idea to have it on a flash drive or have it in another location. And again, that's something that Caitlin talks a lot about, ways to beef up your online storage options or just your digital storage options. So she'll have more advice there. Okay, so signing up for the Google account. I made this presentation for my very, very basic computer classes. So when you're looking at this, it may seem a little too basic, but it's all important information. So your Google account is how you're going to get free access to all of these great devices or all of these great applications. All you need for that, you're going to need an internet connection. You will need to have a phone that can receive calls or texts, and you will need to have it with you. I recommend having a way to record your new username and password, because again, like I was saying, if you get locked out of this account, you lose access to the account. You are not going to be able to access all of those wonderful things that you made there. I also, generally speaking, encourage, if you're going to be starting out with a technology thing that you're not quite comfortable with yet, it is always a good idea to come and talk to your neighborhood library worker. At a time like this, when you can't come into the library, you can always give us a call at our customer hotline, and they are wonderful at walking people through digital setups over the phone. So it's a good idea to call. Creating the account, very easy. You open an internet browser, you go to google.com, you click sign in the top right corner, and then you just hit create an account instead of actually signing in. As we're going through here with the process of creating that account, there are a couple of things I like to mention. When you're picking out a username, thinking about professionalism and availability are kind of the two most important things. So you are unlikely to get, if you have a relatively common name, you're probably not going to be able to get the username of first name, last name at gmail.com. It's just probably already taken, in which case you'll want to switch it up a little bit. But knowing that, you still don't want to have an unprofessional username for the most part, unless you have separate accounts where it's okay to have a professional one and then a non-professional one. But generally speaking, because so much work is done, so much work and so much networking is done using your Google account, whether it's emailing people or sharing files, you're going to want to have a fairly professional username. So it's nice to have a pretty simple one. And then with your password, you are going to want to balance having something that is easy to remember versus something that is very secure, because a password that you can't remember and that you're constantly resetting because you can't remember it, is not that secure. So it's a good idea to have, it's never a good idea to have your password just be your name or your birthday or anything too obvious that someone who knows you relatively well could figure out. But it's a good idea to have something that you can actually remember. I tend to recommend something like, you see, Westbrook. So if you have a favorite basketball player and you want to replace a couple of parts of the name with some symbols because you don't want to just put their name, then you can do that. Throw in some unrelated numbers from something else that you'll be able to remember. It's also a really good idea, or you will need to add a phone number, but part of the adding a phone number when it comes to security is that it's a good idea to set up two-factor authentication. I don't have a slide on that, but again, that's something Caitlin talks about in her online security classes. And that's this part. Okay, now we're going to be getting into the Google Drive. It is a way to share and store your files safely and securely. You can access it from a computer or a mobile device like a tablet, an iPad, or an Android phone or an iPhone. It allows you to easily share and access files, and you can upload up to 15 gigabytes for free, which is another important point. It is only the 15 gigabytes, so you do not have infinite space. And I believe that includes your emails being stored in your Gmail account. So it's a good idea to delete those. One quick thing I want to go over before we start exploring all of the different things that you can use that are part of the Google Drive or part of the Google Apps suite is, what is the cloud? The cloud is a word that people use all the time just to talk about, oh, it's stored in the cloud. But people very rarely talk about what that actually means. So when you upload a document to the cloud, it is copied over the internet to physical data servers, and then is stored on hard drives in these servers in multiple locations. So the idea there is that you upload a document to your Google Drive, and then the drive is going to copy that using the internet. It will copy that over onto a physical data server, and not just one physical data server, but multiple, so that your information is secure if one of those data farms goes down. I suppose I will pause here real quick and see if Caitlin wants to jump in with any questions.
We haven't had any questions yet, which if you do have them, feel free to put them down in the chat. But I do want to say I really like your very good slide.
Thank you. Yes, I worked very hard on this. It has a GIF. So I'm going to leave this screen up for a second before we get to the next one. We're not actually done. This is just the end of my PowerPoint. My Google Slides presentation. So now we're going to start actually exploring some of these things. We are in incognito mode because, one, it's just a responsible thing to do. And two, we're signed into a dummy account that I made, so you don't have to look at all of my terrible, terrible documents. So if you go to Google and you are signed in, to access your Google Drive, you'll just click on this square of squares so you can access all of your Google apps. And then down here is your drive. And if we go there, I have a couple of different examples that I've put together to show some of the things that you can make. So let's start with the most basic, which is Google Docs. So we can go over here to New, and then go down to Google Docs to open one up. You can also, from that little squares, the Google Apps section, you can also go over here and scroll down a bit and open up a new document. One fun fact while I'm getting this open, this is how the teens are passing notes these days. I just think that's important to know. The teens will open up a Google Doc and then use it to communicate. They're real smart. Children are our future. So this is going to look pretty familiar to anyone. If you've used Word documents before, or if you've used really most text editing software, it is quite handy. Most of this, again, this is a kind of streamlined version of what you would get in a paid product like Microsoft Word. So you won't have as much control over how it looks as you would in Microsoft Word, but you'll have, it's wonderful for basic things. And they also have some good templates as well. So if you're working on a new resume, you can go and use some of their resume templates. That's the one I generally use, is the resume templates, and they're quite lovely. You can just click on that, and then it's a pretty simple job to go through and change everything to be the new version, to make it your own. And that way you don't have to go through the process of actually building out the resume. It is much easier. One other thing that is great about Google Docs is, yes, I see this. So if I go down here and I change this to really just any, not great spelling. What you see up here in the corner, you can see the document status. So you can see that what you just did was saved. It is incredibly comforting to know that what you're doing is being constantly saved. Another great thing is if we go over to File and then down to Version History and see Version History, you can see the changes that were made. So if I changed your name to Buddy Bookworm and I regret that, that was not what I wanted to do, but I maybe changed it several days ago and there are a lot of other things I need to do, I can go back and see past versions of what my document looked like. It is you do want to be careful when you are doing this. If you hit restore this version, you will lose all of the process or all of the progress that you had done, which if you really do need to go back to that older version of your file, restore this version is a lifesaver, but you will lose everything between the version you're restoring and what you've been doing. So you want to be careful when you're doing that, but you can also go down and make a copy of the version of an earlier version if you need to work on that. So if you realize that you accidentally deleted a whole paragraph a while ago and you need to go back and get that back, then you can use these past versions to do that. And it is a wonderful technique. Another thing you can do, I'm going to just open up a document I happen to have here. Got it. Is you can comment on what you're working on. It is a really useful way to work together with a group of people. You also, so you can see that these comments pop up, and if I click on that, it will show me exactly what it was that I had wanted to have that be related to. And then if I want to say, just like that, then I can reply to these comments so that you can work collaboratively. You can also resolve the comments so that you don't have to see them anymore. So if the comment had been that I needed to change that from 3 pieces to 4 pieces, then I could go in, change it, and then hit resolve. So I would know that that was taken care of. You also, I'm going to pop in here. You can also collaborate. So I realize that this perhaps looks very similar in the screen that you are seeing, but I'm able to have 2 different accounts logged into this same document right now. So I can add things from a different document over here, or from a different device. So if Caitlin and I were working on this document together, we could be typing at the same time and working on things together, and we wouldn't have to worry about having 2 different versions of something that were growing separately and away from each other. And again, this is how the teens pass notes. That's just important. So everything else about the Google Docs system is, again, relatively similar to Word, but you have wonderful things like being able to share and being able to comment. So if I had finished up what I was working on here, I can go over to share, and then I can type people's names in and send the document off to them. And another thing I can do, if I put in, a different desk that I want to send it to, I don't have to give them editing power. So if I don't want this new person that I'm sharing this with to be able to edit what I'm working on, then I can change that to viewer, and then they can just see what I've done. I can also change it to commenter, so they won't be able to actually edit the document itself, but they can add comments to it, which is wonderful. And of course, you can add in a little message while you're sending it off so that they know why you're sending it. You can also spell things right. And so just like that, this document has been shared with another person, and they would be able to come in and add comments, but not actually edit. So that would keep the document relatively secure. Wouldn't have to worry about anything strange popping in. Does anyone have any questions about Google Docs before we move on to Google Slides?
Mostly just wanted to cut in and say, I like what I'm seeing in this doc. It's real strange.
Please don't read what's in the document. This is an example document. That's another important point. No, that's not it. So, Google Slides. This is basically PowerPoint, but maybe not as sophisticated. But it is a wonderful way to put together a quick slideshow, especially because it's so easy to share across different devices, and you don't have to worry about the person you're sending it to having PowerPoint or having an earlier version of PowerPoint that this won't be compatible with. You can just know that if they have a Google account, they'll be able to sign in and see it. Or they wouldn't even necessarily need to have a Google account and sign in and see it. That would just be if they needed to mess around with it. It does have a lot of lovely little themes over here. You might recognize some of them as the ones that I've been using on the slide that we were looking at earlier. And for the most part, it really does have what you would expect from PowerPoint. So most of what you would typically use is going to be here. You can add pictures, you can add text, you are able to actually have transitions. They have some object animations. They don't have as many as PowerPoint does, but they do have a good amount of object animations. I have never encouraged anyone to use one of these, but if you wanted to, you certainly could. You can also, you have the same document status and ability to see that everything is being saved as you go. It's very easy to title your presentation and send it off again using the share button. You do have to title it first, but it would be very easy to share it with whoever you needed to share it with. And it would be the exact same thing as before, where when you're sharing it, you give different levels of editing access. I would say, generally speaking, that I would mostly use it for creating presentations. I don't know that I have any secret workarounds with this one. It's really just preparing presentations. But you can do a beautiful job with that, especially because they have these lovely templates that you can use or the themes specifically, because when you get a new slide, they will have a whole range of different slide types that are unified around this theme. So you can very easily make a nice, sharp looking professional presentation. Okay, I think we're gonna move to Excel now, not Excel, Sheets. Gonna move on to Google Sheets. Unless there are any questions. So, Google Sheets actually might be my favorite out of all of these, because they have all of these great templates that make it so easy to use the wonderful things that are a part of Sheets or Excel or anything like that, without having to do a lot of work to learn how to create the different equations and things to make that work. So if I just wanted to get a budget going, I could click on this budget template, and it takes a little bit longer to load, but once it gets there, it actually has things all laid out really well in here. So it's easy for me to change these, and you can see as I go. If I say that I only plan to spend $600 on my home, but I actually spend $1,000, I don't have to go in and create this formula because they've already put that together for me. So it's a really fantastic, and you can also see that that goes into all sorts of other places. So they have a lot of wonderful templates that you can use in the Google Sheets, which are, of course, again, all free. I particularly like a reading log that I think Caitlin actually shared with me. Clearly, I did not use it much, but there are a lot of other, whatever you're into, there are wonderful free templates available for it online. So if you are a runner, there are all sorts of different Google Sheets run tracking templates out there that you can find pretty easily, so you don't have to worry about making it yourself. If you love to read, you can find wonderful reading logs. If you're a baker, you can find great ways to track what you've been baking and what you have in your cabinet. So all of these are great things that you can do with Google Sheets, and it again has the benefit of something that you can access wherever you are. There are mobile apps to go with all of these different things. So if I have the Google Sheets app downloaded to my phone, so if I need to go in and adjust something on my reading log, assuming I used it, I would be able to go in and just hop right in on the go and add something to that. It's very convenient. The other one I want to look at real quick is Google Forms. So Google Forms, it would be like SurveyMonkey or Typeform, I believe, is one of the other big ones. It is a good way to find out if you run a small business. It's a good way to collect customer feedback. I clearly have used it many times for costume contests. It's also a really convenient way to avoid having an incredibly long group text where you try to find out the details of what you're going to do. But what I love about it is genuinely easy to put together. So if I go into this one, in which I was attempting to schedule a holiday party, if I want to change anything about it, it's very simple. I can just click here, and I don't know why I always just put hello, but it's, if I want to add a question, you hit add question, and then you can change the type of question to a number of different ones, depending on what it is that you're looking for. But what's good about it, when we go into responses, you can see all of the different responses, and it plays really well with Google Sheets. So if I want all of these responses to be organized in a way where I can look at them, I can either just go through, scroll through with this. I only had 8 people in that department, so there's not too much to look at. But if I go to this door decorating contest and look at the responses there, I had 185 responses. So it's very easy to see here what was the largest selection for all of those, because they make these lovely little pie graphs for you. But I can also hit view responses in Sheets, and it will convert all of my responses into a sheet that not only, into a spreadsheet. And not only did it make my responses, it gave me breakdowns, bar graph breakdowns of what I was seeing. So it's a wonderful way to collect information and analyze it, because it is super easy to just instantly put what you found into a spreadsheet and then start messing around with it in whatever way you need to. That would be the big part for that. Gonna check in again, Caitlin. Any questions?
No questions yet, but I'm enjoying the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so those are the main different apps that you would use with Google Apps. They're the ones that you would expect to find in Microsoft. So Google Docs, it's Word. Google Slides, it's PowerPoint. Google Sheets, it's Excel. And then Google Forms, I like to throw that one in because I feel that it's a pretty underappreciated one. They also have a couple of other ones that are just fun that I wanted to share really quickly. So we have, if I go down here, oops, if you hit new and then go down to more, there is Google Jamboard, which is essentially a nice little, I would say, pin board that you can create. It's super convenient because once you put something on it, you can move it all around. So you can create a very handy, it's basically having a whiteboard that you can work on with someone else. So I can arrange everything that I want to here, I can circle things, but I can also, of course, share it. And so I could have Caitlin in this document at the same time as me, helping me arrange things and sort of helping to plot things out. If you are a visual thinker, then Jamboards are super convenient as a way to communicate with people, because you can create all these different things You can create a lovely background. This is not exactly work related, but I have used Jamboards to plan out things in Dungeons and Dragons before, because you can put this lovely graph paper background on the back and then start arranging all of your different pictures. So if I went into Google Images and just grabbed a dragon, this one, then it's very easy for me to arrange all of these things and just keep moving them around. So to create basically a vision board for what you're working on. If you're a vision board person, a visual person, these are great things to mess with. Another thing you can do is Google Sites. So Google Sites is a pretty easy way to create a very basic website. It won't have the best URL, and it won't be the most sophisticated of websites, but it is something that you can do without any knowledge of coding. All you have to do is go over, let's actually start a new one, change my mind. You would choose Google Sites. And then it's a matter of dragging and dropping your different layouts in. So if you want to have an image carousel, you would just, click on that, start adding in your images, and then you would be able to plunk that right into your new website. You're able to put in direct links to YouTube, you can put in a calendar, and another nice thing about the Google Apps is they all play well together. So if you have a Google Slides presentation, I can click on that, and then I can add in my Cloud Computing with Google Drive slide and just put that right into this new website I'm creating. If I don't like where it is, I can drag it to rearrange it. It's a nice, simple way to do this without having to know anything about coding. And then I can preview this, see how it would look on a computer. I should be able to see how it would look, yes, on a phone. So you'll know right out the box what it's going to look like if it's on a mobile device. And then publishing it is as easy as hitting publish. You can change a bunch of things about your site. If you don't want people to be able to access it immediately, if you only want certain people to have access to it, then you can change those things around. If you want to get a custom URL, you can, but you do have to pay for domains. If you want to have a free one, then you can just start typing something in here. It will, of course, have to be something unique. So, of course, free test has been taken because someone already thought of this. But no one's bothered to take free test site, please work. So if you wanted to create a website that is sites.google.com/view/free test site, please work, then you could very easily do that. They are not going to be, let's say, the most professional of sites. It's something where you know that you are seeing a free website, and that's okay. So if you want to put your portfolio out into the world, this is a wonderful way to do that without having to learn about website design, and although you could very easily with any of our classes, or having to worry about paying for an extra level of service there. Okay, I think that might be what I have. Caitlin, do you feel that that's what I have to say?
I think so. I still don't see any questions in the comments from anybody, but I was trying to come up with questions myself, Ellen. I don't know. I think you
You
covered
don't
everything.
need to do that.
Um, we will send out a link to Ellen's slides, as well as a couple of learning resources that we have available with the library and available online on the internet, with further learning resources. Next week, we are going to be talking about memes, the history of memes and how to make memes. I'm putting that lecture together now, and it's turning out to be a really hard one to put together because the history of memes is long. So it will be a very incomplete and imperfect history. But thank you everyone for coming out. We'll be on for a few minutes longer if you do have questions that come up. But again, thank you for attending today, and I hope you all have a great weekend.